Modern gaming has slowly begun to feel like a chore. And before you say something like,
"You're just growing out of the hobby. You're just getting older,"
I don't feel this way towards older games that I am now playing for the first time, or several indie titles. No, this feeling mainly comes from the mainstream AAA games released over the last few years. And I know I'm not alone in this, as it's one of the most common topics brought up in forums and discussions in the broader gaming community. You know, it isn't just one or two niche communities that feel this way. Many different types of gamers are sharing a similar sentiment. And game development technology has only gotten better and better, and games have only become more and more ambitious. So from an objective standpoint, gaming should be better now than ever before. So why do so many gamers share this sentiment? Again, there's always the,
"You're outgrowing gaming. You're nostalgic for the past. You're just burnt out."
and while these are applicable to some, I don't think it fully represents the full picture, and the problem goes far deeper than these very surface level explanations. So I want to look at that first point. Old games don't feel like a chore, but new ones do. Why? What's the difference between new and old game design that separate them from one another? Well, there's quite a lot actually, and we're not going to be able to cover all of them in this video, but one of the most important things to me is old games rarely wasted your time. They got you right into the action, right into the adventure. And other than Metal Gear Solid, most games didn't have hours of cutscenes, or tracking across open expanses of nothingness to get to the next point of interest. No farming for materials or grinding XP. No climbing hundreds of towers to reveal the dark part of a map. And most importantly, nobody said things like,
"You gotta spend at least 20 hours in this game before it gets good."
You know, you could tell right away if a game was going to hook you. Let's take New Vegas and Starfield as examples. And we're going to compare the first 60 minutes of New Vegas versus the first 60 minutes of Starfield. In Fallout New Vegas, you get a brief intro cinematic to set up the world of Fallout and the main plot that New Vegas would revolve around. You immediately wake up in a doctor's house. He helps you set up your character stats and character creator. You stumble outside and begin talking to a few folks in town. You learn the basics of combat and survival from one of the characters. You then involve yourself in a conflicting quest to either help the town against a bunch of escaped convicts, or help the convicts take over the town. And in the process of all that, you've learned about skill checks and branching quest design that will affect the game forever. And in the aftermath of whichever choice you choose, you now know almost everything you'll ever need to know for the rest of the game, and you've pretty much wrapped up your first hour of New Vegas right there. Obsidian then hands you the reins to just go play the game. Complete freedom from here on out. In fact, you can wake up and run straight out of Good Springs immediately, if you wanted to. Now let's take a look at Starfield's first hour. You're going to spend about 10 minutes slow walking while NPCs ramble to you. You pass out and wake up, create your character stats, slow walk for another 10 minutes with more exposition dumping, fight off a group of pirates for about 20 seconds, slow walk and then exposition dump some more, interact with your loading screen, your ship, walk around a barren planet, shoot a couple more pirates, and then somehow, after that first hour, the game becomes even more restrictive and slow. And you will spend the next 3 hours doing nothing but slow walking and talking to NPCs to tutorialize you some more. Another 5 hours of fetch quests and radiant quests go by, and then by maybe hour 12 or 13, you have a similar level of freedom that you did after the first hour of New Vegas. By hour 12 in New Vegas, I'd be balls deep in uncovering a cannibalism conspiracy inside the Ultralux casino. Hell, even at hour 6, I'd already sent some ghouls into outer space. And games can often feel like a chore when they waste your time or they take too long to get going. And even when they do get going, it's not that good. And while not everyone feels like Starfield is a chore to play, I think it's more than safe to say that Starfield has been a very large disappointment for many for this very reason.
If you want to explore, you'll have to go to your menu, zoom out of the planet, zoom out of the star system, navigate to a correctly leveled star system and fast travel. Then you watch a loading screen, a landing animation, and walk in a straight line for 3 to 5 minutes until you reach a point of interest. Unfortunately, none of these points of interest are interesting. At best, you'll find a copy-pasted pirate camp, and at worst, you'll find a planet trait, which is useless unless you're trying to fully scan a planet, or a cave with a few alien enemies and basically nothing in it.
But Starfield is just the most recent example of a game that wastes the player's time. We could discuss forever about the 20-hour feature films in the Sony PlayStation catalog, or the overbloated and tedious gameplay design of Ubisoft titles, or other generic game studios. Or we could talk about live service games that every few months give players 30 hours of busy work to grind out. It doesn't matter the example, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Modern games that love to waste your time, and only focus on getting you to spend as much time as possible inside their game. Why? Well, because if a game comes out and it has a 12-hour runtime, gaming journalists and basement dwellers will publicly crucify the game for not being long enough. You know, I can see it now. BioShock released in today's timeline would have 10 hours of cutscenes added on top of it, and several NPCs would have radiant quests to complete, with the game totaling to over 40 hours. Because longer means better, am I right?
Wrong.
That is absolutely
Wrong.
true.
Older games rarely would waste your time though. They knew that people had a limited time to play games, and that people are interested in playing other games. You know, I can play Assassin's Creed 2 over a weekend, maybe like an extra evening on a weekday too. And that's awesome. I didn't waste 2 months grinding it like I did with Valhalla. And because it doesn't take so long to get through, I go back and play it at least once a year, because I know it won't eat up a whole lot of my time. But what about big, lengthy RPG games? I love them. And yes, they can take a while to play through. For instance, I loved my time with Elden Ring, put close to 100 hours in my first character. And Elden Ring seems like the perfect candidate for replayability, with the amount of builds and ways to approach the game, but the thought of replaying Elden Ring is a bit daunting. You know, I've played through Dark Souls dozens of times, and like Assassin's Creed 2, I play it at least once or twice a year because while it's possible to spend 80 hours in a single playthrough, my replays have been closer to 15 hours. RPGs that are more dense than expansive are ones that I always find myself going back to more often, or just games in general. Again, this doesn't mean large and expansive RPGs are bad at all, they just need to respect my time. And I do think Elden Ring did do that, it's just not something I'm looking to replay quite yet. Baldur's Gate 3 is a good example of a game that's huge. It's a behemoth of a game. But I think you can ask anyone, including myself, about their time with that game, and none of its playtime feels unnecessary or tedious or grindy. It's just a behemoth in a good way. Every hour is made up of worthwhile and what feels like necessary content. The real difference between a good lengthy game and a bad one is playing a lot of hours because you're actually invested in the game versus hurrying through hours of tedium in order to get to the fun parts of the game. There are times in modern games, especially live services, that I would often be thinking about the literal chores I need to do in between the fun, doing all the live service style bullshit. Between hours of tedious quest design and more hours of inventory management, I was mostly relieved when I finally stopped playing the game for the night. Maybe 30% of my time in the game was actually having fun. Grinding for XP and materials to advance isn't a massive problem if the grind is reasonable. But we all know that in most games these days that just isn't the case. And again, the grind is always extended not for the player enjoyment, but to either pad out runtime in a game or make you invest more in order to become addicted. After a while it became sort of stressful to play these games, like a genuine second job. I'm sure you've heard that several times. Whereas the games made with genuine intentions I always find myself truly invested into because I wanted to be, not because it required me to be. Games like these tend to consume my thoughts because of the world, the characters, the badass builds I'm experimenting with. I become obsessed with it. Not saying it's healthy for a game to consume your life in that way either, but at least you're genuinely enjoying the game because of the game, not because you're trying to check off a to-do list. Moments in games like, ah shit, I failed Siegmeyer of Katarina, and I have to relay the bad news to his daughter. I wonder where she is. And then I spend several hours playing and adventuring, thinking about Siegmeyer's story and trying to find his daughter, while also working through other challenges along my journey. Moments like those are what make me want to keep playing and move forward. Now, it would be wrong not to dive a bit into the reality of gaming burnout, which can also be a big reason some find gaming to be a chore, so let's talk about that. In today's gaming culture, there is a lot of social pressure surrounding the enjoyment of certain games, like you must like this game and praise it, or if you enjoy this game, then you're an elitist. The online culture of video games can get pretty exhausting because everyone has become extremely opinionated and upset with everyone else's preferences. So we see a lot of people shy away from playing certain games and trying to go along with public opinion and play what's popular or what's considered the thing to play in the broader gaming community. And I know we've all been guilty of this, myself included. I've played several games where I really just pushed through them despite not really enjoying the experience. You know, they just weren't for me, and they ended up being a chore to play through. And it's easy to get caught up in this, I must play this because everyone online is hyping it up idea. But some games just aren't going to click with you, and that's okay. I've had to get used to finding the difference of wanting to play a game versus slogging my way through them for the sake of saying that I've done it. At this point, for myself at least, if I'm not feeling a game after the first few hours, I'm not going to force myself to see it through just to say I've done it. Gaming burnout really can set in when you start treating it like a checklist of games completed. But now, I value my gaming time more than I used to. I don't feel as much of a need to be that gamer that's played everything, and I've been better off for it with that mindset shift. Gaming burnout can also just come from playing simply because of sunk cost fallacy, where you feel like you just can't quit the game, usually a live service one because of the hours you've put into it. But sometimes you just need to hang up your hat and call it quits if you aren't enjoying a game that you once adored. Sometimes you are the problem. But, all that being said, I do think objectively, many games released nowadays, same as most movies and entertainment in general, while look flashy and have massive budgets, don't have those same things that hook a lot of players or moviegoers like they used to. If I really think of a TV show that really wastes my time, it's The Witcher show. And that is not a problem with the source material that it's based on. The source material is fantastic. I highly recommend you read the books. But don't watch the fucking show. Talk about a piece of media that wastes your time. Or what about a game like Back 4 Blood? That game completely dropped off and kind of flopped, but the games that inspired it have lived on with healthy player counts and communities for over a decade. I think it's because a lot of these games aren't developed by gamers anymore. If you start looking at a lot of the development teams at most studios, you start to learn that a large number of the employees are just people who worked at some other random tech company prior to the game studio, and only took this job because they needed a job in their field. A lot of them are very clueless as to what makes a game so encapsulating. Now I know I've already lost some of you with that thought, but I think it's pretty evident when looking at the state of the industry today. You know, when a game like Baldur's 3 comes out, made for gamers, by gamers that really care about the experience of the player, i.e. the customer, it's easy to see why they're so successful and sell so many copies, and become a big cultural phenomenon. We need games developed by gamers, for gamers that don't waste our time, because that is what I believe makes gaming feel like a chore. But that's just one man's take on the idea of gaming becoming a chore. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next one.